Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Please come in and say a friendly hello. Be nice to talk to you. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Do a Bible verse, Matthew 18, verse 6. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Thanks for coming in. It's good to see y'all here. See that two people are here at the moment here at YouTube. We're going to go over what is Operation Dragon Eye. What did it accomplish in Florida? So without further ado, let's get this. It says that U.S. Marshal Service. This is Justice Integrity Service. Immediate release. This was June the 23rd, 2025. Office of Public Affairs. There's the phone number there. This is Tampa, Florida. The U.S. Marshals Service, Middle District of Florida, in conjunction with a vast array of partners, led missing child operation in June that resulted in the recovery of safe location of 60 critically missing children from across Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco counties. Operation Dragon Eye, the product of a multidisciplinary task force of federal, state, and local government agencies, as well as social service entities, the medical community, and non governmental organizations planning and executing a 2-week initiative geared to recover or safely locate the most critically missing youth, has been deemed the most successful missing child operation in USMS history. The USMS defines critically missing children as those at risk of crimes or violence or those with other elevated risk factors such as substance abuse, sexual exploitation, crime exposure, or domestic violence. This operation had three primary objectives: recover critically missing youth, provide them with essential services, including appropriate placement, and to deter bad actors exploiting missing child vulnerabilities. Dragon Eye resulted in 8 arrests, including charges of human trafficking, child endangerment, narcotics possession, and custodial interference. Recovered children were provided with medical resources, nourishment, social services, and child advocates. Operation Dragon Eye Child Welfare and Social Service Partners said they are proud of this operation's achievements. I had to curtail my enthusiasm because of the sensitivity of the victims involved in this operation. But the successful recovery of 60 missing children, complemented with the arrest of 8 individuals, including child predators, signifies the most successful missing child recovery effort in the history of the United States Marshal Service, or to my knowledge, any other similar operation held in the United States, says William Berger, U.S. Marshal for the Middle District of Florida. I'm going to give it a clap. Yes. The unique part of this operation was the fact that underage critically missing children ranging from age 9 to 17 were not only recovered, but were debriefed and provided with physical and psychological care. This operation further included follow up assistance in hopes that these youth will not return to the streets to be further victimized. USMS law enforcement partners played essential roles in the success of Operation Dragon Eye, and it included the following agencies: Florida Attorney General's Office, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Florida Department of Children and Families, Florida Department of Juvenile Justice, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Pasco Sheriff's Office, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, St. Petersburg Police Department, Tampa Police Department, Bay Care, Bridging Freedom, Bridges of Hope, Children's Home Network, Children's Network of Hillsborough County, Family Support Services, Pasco, Pinellas Counties, More to Life, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and Redefining Refuge. The success of Operation Dragon Eye is a testament to what's possible when agencies unite with a shared mission to protect children. To Callahan Walsh, Executive Director, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We're proud to have supported the U.S. Marshal Service and our partners in Florida to recover these missing children and provide critical support to those who need it most. NCMEC is honored to stand alongside these teams and will continue working tirelessly to help make sure that every child has a safe childhood. The Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act of 2015 enhanced the USMS discretionary authority to assist other law enforcement agencies with the recovery of missing, endangered, or abducted children, regardless of whether a fugitive or sex offender was involved. The U.S. Marshals have a missing child unit to oversee and manage the implementation of its enhanced authority under the Act. Upon request, the Marshals assist other law enforcement agencies with the recovery of critically missing children who have gone missing under circumstances that indicate an elevated risk of the child. Since 2015, when the Marshals received enhanced authority under the Act, the agency has located or recovered more than 3,967 missing children. The U.S. Marshals have located or recovered missing children in 66% of cases received. Of those recovered, 61% were found within 7 days. U.S. Marshals are leading the way in a nationwide effort to rescue and recover missing and exploited children, thereby aiding in the prevention of human trafficking. Yes. So, without further ado, let's go to the next article. This is Uthmire's historic Operation Dragon Eye follows a new law allowing death for child traffickers. Tallahassee, days after Governor Ron DeSantis approved a new law allowing the death penalty for child sex traffickers, Attorney General James Uthmire coordinated an historic effort to rescue 60 missing kids from abuse. Uthmire spoke to the Floridian in a phone interview about the 2 week long Operation Dragon Eye, the largest child recovery mission in the history of the United States Marshal Service. 60 missing children, ages 9 to 17, were found across 3 counties and saved from abuse, trafficking, or endangerment by 20 federal, state, and local agencies. About 15 had been sex trafficked. Oh my. Well, Uthmeyer doesn't know where Florida's new anti trafficking law, which takes effect October the 1st, can be applied to any of the 8 suspects arrested Monday. He supports the nation's most severe punishment in cases where we have the authority. If we have the authority under the law, we are certainly going to look at bringing the strongest charges we can bring, Uthmeyer said, acknowledging that many of the operation's details are not yet public, and the trafficking law will likely be litigated. Still, he said those who sexually abuse young kids should face the strongest form of justice possible in the death penalty. Uthmeyer added that his office is looking at other pending cases where child abusers could be eligible for death. When we believe there is the appropriate case for the strongest form of justice, we will indeed pursue it. SB 1804, approved last week by DeSantis, allows prosecutors to seek the death penalty or life imprisonment for predators who sexually traffic children under 12 or those with mental disabilities. You hear that? Also, those with mental disabilities. That would mean any age. The sweeping new law is the latest in Florida's slew of anti criminal, pro death penalty legislation enacted under DeSantis. In 2023, he approved 2 bills expanding the death penalty to child rapists and reducing the jury threshold to recommend death from a unanimous vote to a supermajority. Last month, he signed a new law adding more execution methods. What is Operation Dragon Eye and who has been charged? Uthmeyer and other law enforcement agencies, including the U.S. Marshals, became aware of child sex trafficking in the Tampa Bay area a few months ago, he said, inspired Operation Dragon Eye. The effort, which began 2 weeks ago, included more than 100 personnel across 20 agencies. Officials said it led to the recovery of 60 missing children, the largest operation of its kind for the U.S. Marshals Service. According to information provided by the Attorney General's office to the Floridian, the 8 arrested have been charged with crimes ranging from interference with child custody to sex with a minor. The most egregious charges include human trafficking, filed by the St. Petersburg Police Department against Dion Tompkins, and unlawful sex with a minor and failure to register as a sex offender, filed by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office against Vernon McLeod. Do you say that people are innocent until proven guilty? I hate to say that, but I do need to state that. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office charged Sean Cordes with contributing to the delinquency of a minor and Serenity Teal with interference with child custody. The Tampa Police Department charged Khadijah Lee and Larry Mitchell with interference with child custody. The Pinellas Sheriff's Office also charged DeAndre Isidore Thomas with drug possession, and St. Petersburg charged Patricia Holloman with interference with child custody and resisting arrest without violence. Aged 9 through 17, the children included 17 boys and 43 girls. 31% were foster children, people, and 15 had been sex trafficked. At least one had been impregnated. Whoa, 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 whoa. 40 were considered critically missing, meaning at risk for abuse, sexual exploitation, and crime exposure. And Though the operation was the largest in both Florida history and that of the U.S. Marshals, Uthmeier says his office isn't done and more efforts are underway. There are active investigations related to this initial operation that are ongoing as a result of what we've been able to discover in Operation Dragonite. So we're full steam ahead, continuing to take down anybody that's trafficking or preying upon our kids. Thank you so much. I've got more information to show, but let me go ahead and go back over here to StreamYard to see if anybody said anything. Okay, so go over here right quick. Hi there. It's so good to see you, Sanders. Yeah. The issue with the death penalty underlined in the U.S. Supreme Court and its decision to block the death penalty for child rape because in 2005, the Georgia Coalition for Children got it passed. That sucks. That stinks right there. They should be able to do the death penalty. Do they not understand that basically whatever they do to a child in these ways, it harms them forever, physically? They might heal some emotionally, but there's physical damage and repercussions as well. So here is the death penalty for child sexual abuse that does not result in death. The United States Supreme Court previously held that the death penalty for non-homicide crimes such as rape of an adult woman or the sexual assault of a child are disproportionate to the crime and violate the Eighth Amendment's prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. This is what Charles was showing right here. In 2023, the Florida legislature passed a law that provides for the death penalty for child sexual abuse in defiance of Supreme Court precedent. Several other state legislators are considering similar legislation. He said the under 1616.4 of the Code of Georgia has amenable to a 25-year prison sentence to the door up to the death penalty, but the Supreme Court has blocked the death penalty phase of the sentence. Yeah, that's what. Hi there, Carlene. Good to see you too. Okay, showing that what Charles had put right here. Isn't that sad whenever you go like this and try to get the laws and protect our children, and then you got them saying, yeah, it's not worth it. They didn't kill the people. It did not result in a homicide. So the people can continue going out there and continue to hurt the children. So here's Kennedy versus Louisiana in 2008. In January 2008, the United States Supreme Court agreed to hear the appeal of a man in Louisiana who had been sentenced to death for the rape of a child who did not die. Patrick Kennedy was convicted and sentenced to death in 2004 for the rape of his 8-year-old stepdaughter. Mr. Kennedy challenged his sentence as a violation of the Eighth Amendment based on the rarity of a death sentence for a non-homicide crime. The court had last considered a related issue in 1977 when it prohibited capital punishment for the rape of an adult woman in Coker versus Georgia. While Coker did not specifically address the rape of a minor under the age of 12, many viewed the decision as effectively limiting the death penalty to the crime of murder. In addition to Louisiana, 5 states in 2008 allowed the death penalty for sexual assault against a minor, though no one had been sentenced to death in those states: Montana, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Georgia, and Texas. In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court struck down Louisiana statute, ruling that a death sentence was disproportionate to the crime and unconstitutional under the Eighth Amendment. The court held that all such laws were contrary to the national consensus restricting the death penalty to the worst offenses, which has been defined as murder. Consequently, both Mr. Kennedy and the only other man, Richard Davis, sentenced to death for his crime, were resentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In its analysis, the court noted that making a death sentence a possibility for these crimes was embraced by just 6 of the 50 states, a majority view. Justice Anthony Kennedy, writing for the majority, stated, based both on consensus and our own independent judgment, our holding is that a death sentence for one who raped but did not kill a child and who did not intend to assist another in killing a child unconstitutional under the 8th and 14th Amendments. The court held that whether the death penalty is disproportionate to the crime depends on the standards elaborated by controlling precedents and on the court's own understanding and interpretation of the Eighth Amendment's text, history, meaning, and purpose. And I got y'all to know that a lot of these people do commit suicide. A lot of these kids do, being victimized in this way. Post Kennedy legislation, here's in Florida. In April 2023, the Florida legislature passed a bill allowing the death penalty for sexual battery of a child under the age of 12. After the urging of Governor Ron DeSantis in January 2023 at a news conference, Governor DeSantis criticized the Supreme Court's decision in Kennedy, telling reporters he believes that the president was wrong. We do not believe the Supreme Court, in its current iteration, would uphold it. And so we are going to be exploring ways to facilitate some capitals trials if you have the worst of the worst. In May 2023, Governor DeSantis signed legislation that expands death penalty eligibility to those convicted of sex crimes against children. Thank you, Ron DeSantis. According to language in the bill, lawmakers echoed Governor DeSantis' belief that the court's ruling in Kennedy was wrongly decided, and that such cases are an egregious infringement of the state's power to punish the most heinous crimes. The bill's sponsor and former prosecutor, Senator Jonathan Martin, told his colleagues that the most serious crimes, like sexual battery on a child, needs the most serious punishment and the most serious penalty and the most serious deterrent. And I agree 110%. If y'all agree, please put a 1 there. Hey there, Chris. Good to see you. Governor DeSantis believes the U.S. Supreme Court will uphold Florida's new sexual battery law. This bill sets up a procedure to be able to challenge that precedent and be able to say that in Florida we think that the worst of the worst crimes deserve the worst of the worst punishment, said Governor DeSantis. The legislation went into effect on October the 1st, 2023, and allows the state of Florida to seek a death sentence when an adult is convicted of sexual battery of a child under the age of 12. On December the 14th, 2023, Lake County, Florida prosecutors announced that they would seek the first death sentence for a man accused of committing sexual battery of a minor under the age of 12. A statement from the Office of State Attorney William Gladson said the decision reflects the severity of the crime and its impact on the community. In February 2024, the defendant pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. You got both House Bills 106 and 188 passed into law in 2005, which also adopted Megan's Law into Georgia Code, but the age standard of the age of 10 was pushed by the Florida and South Carolina. Wow. Let me share that with people so that they can see what I'm talking about here, okay? All right. Thank you so much for all you're doing. In Tennessee, in January 2024, State Representative William Lamberth introduced a bill that would authorize the death penalty as punishment for rape of a child, aggravated rape of a child, or specially aggravated rape of a child. These crimes authorize the death penalty despite the fact that no homicide occurred. On May the 9th, 2024, Governor Bill Lee signed the bill, which took effect on July the 1st, 2024. Individuals convicted under this legislation could be sentenced to death, life imprisonment without parole, or life imprisonment with parole. Governor Bill Lee, I appreciate you doing this and all, but how about stop being buddies with uh, Aaron Solomon? I mean, he sexually exploited his daughter and possibly killed his son. Okay, justice for Grant, freedom for Gracie. Y'all look it up at YouTube and Instagram. Freedom for Gracie and justice for Grant. Y'all will see all the information that I am talking about and the proof behind what I'm saying. And Governor Bill Lee goes to church with Aaron Solomon and sits on the same pew with him, and they covered up this sexual stuff. And they knew that Aaron Solomon was even going to the school with the kids playing in PE, and he was basically underneath where the girls where you can look up their skirts and stuff like that or whatever, taking pictures of the girls, and then later contacting them via social media. Okay, what's wrong with this? Hi there, Mr. L. Good to see you. See what else you got to say there, Charles, right here. Hey there, D. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. So coalitions, we wanted the age of 12, but due to the Jessica Lunsford case of Florida and South Carolina joined the movement of the condition for the age of 10. Boy, I really believe that whoever hurts a child, regardless of the age, even under the age of 18, I don't care, 17, whatever, whatever's an age that it's a minor, I think they should have to face some repercussions, regardless. Regardless, that's my belief. Okay. If a kid is not able to get out there and vote, it's not able to get out there and do a lot of things, you need to protect the children at all costs, right? So here's Idaho. On March 7th, 2025, State Representative Bruce Skog introduced a bill that would authorize the death penalty as punishment for aggravated lewd conduct with a minor under the age of 12. This legislation authorizes the death penalty despite the fact that no homicide occurred. On March 26, 2025, Governor Brad Little signed the bill, which becomes effective July the 1st, 2025. So tomorrow it becomes in effect. Woo, yay! Individuals convicted under this legislation could be sentenced to death or life imprisonment. Now, here is Oklahoma on February the 3rd, 2025. State Senator Warren Hamilton introduced a bill that would authorize prosecutors to pursue a death sentence for a rape of a child under the age of 14 for first time offenses. State law already required an individual previously convicted of this crime to be eligible for the death penalty. On May the 22nd, 2025, Governor Kevin Stitt signed the bill, which will go into effect on November the 1st, 2025. If found guilty of this offense, an individual can be sentenced to death or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Wow. And then you go on and think, you remember when I did the lives where they were condoning children to marry these men, these adult men? What about these kids where the government is going ahead and judges going ahead, under the guise of being taking taking the control and going through loopholes? And yeah, there's states that say you cannot get married and it's mandatory. You got to be 18 or above, right? But the problem with that is when I did the story, they're not going and checking the people's ID to authenticate that this is not a minor. So these minors are slipping through the cracks and getting married to these adult men. Okay. So they are willingly letting these perpetrators marry these kids. And when it's that kind of thing, they don't have to pay the price of sexually abusing a kid. This is so wrong, people. It's very wrong. Okay. Okay. I get off my little soapbox right there, but it does infuriate me. States with proposed legislation. In 2025, in Alabama State Representative Matt Simpson introduced legislation in January 2025 that will require any person aged 18 or older convicted of rape in the first degree or sodomy in the first degree of a victim under the age of 6 to be sentenced to death or life in prison without parole. Why they keep lowering the age from like 14 to 12 to 10 to 8 under the age of 6? If the convicted individual is under age 18, then they'll be sentenced to life without parole or life. Arkansas State Representative Matt Stone introduced legislation in March 2025 that would create the offense of capital rape, which includes having sex with a person 13 years or younger. Under this law, those aged 18 or older convicted would face a death penalty or life in prison without parole. Individuals under age 18 would face life imprisonment with a possibility for parole after 20 years. In Kentucky, state representatives introduced legislation in January 2025 that will make rape in the first degree, sodomy in the first degree, and sexual abuse in the first degree capital offenses when the victim is under 12 years old. The capital offense will be punishable by death, life imprisonment without parole, or life with parole after 25 years. A Mississippi State Representative Jansen Owen introduced legislation that would make rape of a child under 12 years old that damage the child's sexual organs a death eligible offense. Yeah, yeah. Individuals 18 or older would face the death penalty or life in prison without parole. Missouri State Senator Mike Moon introduced legislation that would make statutory rape in the first degree and sexual trafficking of a child in the first degree death eligible crimes. You need to. If enacted, it would only apply prospectively. What? Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks introduced legislation that would make sodomy in the first degree of a child under 12 years of age a death eligible offense. In Virginia, State Representative Timothy Griffin introduced legislation that will reinstate the death penalty for capital murder and rape, forcible sodomy, and object sexual penetration when the victim is a child under the age of 13 and the offender is over the age of 18 and does not have an intellectual disability. Well, I hope you do something more if they do have an intellectual disability over the age of 18. Don't just say, well, he's mental, like a lot of the problem here. But there's a sex offender across the street, and he was threatening different people, including a child that was walking on the sidewalk to go see her grandmother. She's 2, 3 year old. And the police said, he's mental. We're not going to do that with him. We're not going to do that with him. Oh, boy. So in 2024, Arizona state senators introduced a bill in January 2024 that would add sexual conduct with a minor as an offense that can be punishable by death. The bill's sponsor has since filed an amendment to her own bill eliminating the death penalty as a possible punishment. What? This amendment came after the bill was approved by committee and they changed the bill's language. So did it what? So now she changed it? Idaho state representatives introduced legislation in January 2024 that would allow a capital sentence for lewd conduct with a minor under 12 if there are aggravating circumstances. And we all know lewd, that is aggravating to a child. A child should not be seeing that. Anything like that is aggravating, if you want to say aggravating in the terms that we say, because a kid is not going to forget. Kid is not going to forget. So y'all in Arizona that look up who did that bill. Please do not vote them in to office again. So, Missouri State Senator Mike Moon introduced legislation in December 2023 in January 2024 that would allow the death penalty for the offenses of statutory rape in the first degree and sexual trafficking of a child in the first degree. The Republican state representatives in New Mexico introduced a bill in January 2024 that would make aggravated criminal sexual penetration and criminal sexual penetration of a child punishable by death. In South Carolina, state representatives introduced in both December 2023 and January 2024 that would allow the death penalty for persons who commit criminal sexual conduct and a victim under 11 years of age. In South Dakota, state representatives introduced legislation in January 2024 that would allow the death penalty for the rape of a child aged 12 and under. So it's an international perspective. Death penalty for child sexual abuse and miscarriages of justice in Florida and Tennessee, and by Adriano Martins Ensemble Contre le Bien de Mort, board member and former senior official of the diplomatic service of the European Union, September 19, 2024. I guess it went ahead and did away with what I was showing at, right? Well, it's trying to call me now, but I'm doing the slide. The coalitions, go ahead and read that again. One at the age of 12, but due to the Jessica, yeah, read that right there. So, so John Ramsey threatened our coalition for using JonBenet among our mascots to push for the death penalty in Georgia in May of 2005. But we got both bills passed anyway without using JonBenet as a mascot. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, don't forget the religious ones. There's a lot of religious people out there that's going and using. That's what the bad thing about it is. They'll say that the religion and a lot of these sex traffickers, they're going to church. You could ask Charles Rogers about that. They'll come and stipulate like we're a Christian and all that, yet they're out there killing children, murdering them, trafficking them, harming them. And they're getting away with it. Some of these people are still getting away with it because they're higher up. And that's a shame. And it's a shame a lot of times when people go to tell and like, we don't believe you. This person's higher up, so we're just going to let it go. Like when I was sexually exploited by a therapist and the elder was paying because we didn't have, church didn't pay for a therapist, and that guy could touch me, he could do whatever he wanted to. It said unconventional therapy. And he locked me in a room and everything, but the elder said he could do that, and he would touch me wrongly. He would push me to the floor. He would lay on me and all that. But here I was an adult and everything. But all this stuff is permitted. Too much is permitted, and it's wrong. Even as a kid, even cops were called. Like my daddy shot at me, but the cops didn't believe me, right? Even though the siblings had said, even though I had the scars and the bruises. So what are you going to do when you go to tell the police, right? And then a lot of times the police are involved, like a lot in Atlanta, Georgia. A lot of times, and they work one on one. Even Judge McLaughlin in Marietta, Georgia, I guess, is that where he's at, or Cobb County, Charles, where he used to live in Knoxville, Tennessee. And then he ended up going down to Atlanta area and becoming a judge, magistrate. There's a lot of people that is higher ups. We need to be hyper vigilant. Remember we used to go outside and we used to think that we could play around and just come home after dark and go in the house. People say, well, it was safer back then. No, there was a lot of people that were still victimized and kidnapped, and there's still these missing kids cases. But I think there's more that's showing out because of the use of the internet. And I do thank God for the internet because so that we could get the word out even more so. Just remember to be hyper vigilant and fight for our kids. And I appreciate and love each of y'all. God bless y'all. Oh, I want to remind everybody that I got my last book out there. It is on Amazon and it's Born in Living Hell version 2.0. I got it on my profile if anybody's interested. See in the links. God bless you.